back for another amazing drums live. And, as I say, when I do these, I'm always excited by the guests I have, on the video show with me. And I'm really excited about this one because, we've had lots of conversations. We've linked up. She's played in London for one of my parties. So there's more of a vibe. And, it's been great. She's done an amazing step down when she came through. Do check it out if you haven't already on Drums Radio as well. Check it out right now. Go on, not right now, after this. Check it out on YouTube. It's amazing DJ. Her name, Sabine Blaizin. We are going to get into it. We're going to chop it up, and I'm looking forward to this. Sabine, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Drums Radio Live.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I miss you all. It's a great opportunity just to reconnect. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's awesome having you on the show as usual. We could discuss so much that can start so many different places. But I think what I want to do first and foremost is to get a little bit about Sabine Blaizin, tell the audience a bit about who you are, where your origins are from, and how you got into Afrohouse.
Yes, so my real name is Sabine Blaizin, and my brand is called Oyasound. And I'm originally born and raised in the Bronx, New York. I'm of Haitian descent. And, in terms of Afrohouse, I feel like it's innate in my culture and the music and that I vibe to growing up. Anything that's percussive, that has, that polyrhythm, I'm drawn to. And particularly, as a teen and later as an adult, I loved a bunch of genre of music, but particularly house was where I found my freedom of expression. First off as a dancer, and then later on exploring DJing and producing, and just the beautiful culture and the melting pot of house definitely was my release, was my healing, was my sacred space, all of those things growing up and even until to this day. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's definitely, and you've definitely been I would say raising the flag or holding being a standard bearer, I believe. Yeah, that's it, the standard bearer for the sound in New York, whether it be Bronx, Queens, or Brooklyn.
You've been now, yes,
yes, I know, and Manhattan and stuff like that. Tell us when it's because there's I'd say a different kind of flavor because house is an original American sound creation. There's kind of a difference with what happens with the Afrohouse sound that's coming from South Africa and what is being acceptable or not acceptable, but minced in with the original Chicago and that sort of house. How is that kind of what's the balance or you're finding when you're playing the two tunes? How is it received? How is it received? Sorry, not receptive, received.
Yes. I see it interconnected. It's just it's just a historical and cultural thing, right? Because if you really look at the history of house music, it comes from the Black underground, right? In the United States, Detroit, Chicago, New York, Black and queer to be even more specific, right?
Correct.
So we are of people of African descent. We're just misplaced and displaced throughout the world. So I think in all forms of music, but particularly since we're talking about house, it's innate to us in terms of like rhythms and patterns and all of that. Of course, the rhythms and patterns that come straight out of the continent is much closer to our original African roots and sound. But I definitely see connections, similarities in different ways, and or just elevating the sound from the United States or New York and adding that extra level of African polyrhythmic sounds to it to really enhance it. I think it's a beautiful marriage. And I'm so excited to see the appreciation and us being in the forefront of this movement of house music, because essentially it does come from us. So I think that's the conversation or the history that some people may or may not know, but I don't really see it as two distinct things, maybe historically in terms of songs, DJs, producers, and when things were released, what movement, what club scene there was. But if you look at even the way that we dance, the way that we congregate, the way that we celebrate each other, there's a lot of similarities. I think the root of it is Africa. And always been Africa.
Yes, definitely. I can totally agree with that. Do you find that when you're DJing or playing, that your connection with the music helps you vibe? I mean, I remember you did a boiler room and you bought the is it the bell or the triangle? I can't remember.
Cowbell.
The cowbell.
My favorite.
Tell us a little bit about that and that energy that you bring to the room.
Yes. So of course I started out first as a dancer in the club scene, and I was a punk rocker, hip hop head, all of those things. But once I found house, that was like my sacred space, right? And I also see the beauty of house being able to mix in various people, cultures, backgrounds, sounds, all of that. So I found my place there. And I also come from a live, I don't know, I guess live performance background as well, as an MC, as a poet, and being in traditional bands as well, Afro-Haitian, Afro-Dominican. And these were some of the instruments that I played. Cowbell, clavas, pandero.
Yeah.
So when I think of music, right, of course, in the space of doing a lot of electronic music and use a computer and, or instruments in that way, I need that live element. It just can't just be boxed, I need a little bit of a swing. I need a little bit of, that cowbell, all of those things. So in my production later on, I noticed that that's essentially my style. I have to hear it live, and then I could put the four on the floor, beat behind it and make it housey. But like the original band flavor is what I'm drawn to. So I see myself as a DJ not only playing produced music, electronic music, but also really culling out and also showing people that this is the original instrument of the sound, right? The shaker. We're going to have the shaker there when I can, if I'm feeling it, depending on the gig. I'll bring the cowbells, like whatever my spirit moves me to do, I'll put it in my little DJ bag and I'll go for it. Cause I sort of feel like something, that magic that's about to happen for that night. One of the other things that I see as an instrument for me in my style was always, obviously I'm unapologetic in terms of who I am, right? As an African woman, as a woman of Haitian descent. So also just putting Haiti on the map. And bringing Haiti wherever I go. And that's innate to who I am and my style and when I speak or play. But it's something about having something tangible, right? That inspires me and hopefully inspires other people. So I have my flag, and that's another instrument for me,
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was so fun. Oh my gosh, just being in London. And I've DJed once before in London, but this particular party was magical because it's named and it's very intentional that it's Afrohouse. There's no the Afrohouse party. Like it's straight up, this is it. I'm claiming it. And then the people that were in the room, obviously various backgrounds, but the majority of the people in the room were actual Africans from the continent. And people were like, "My sister, where are you from?" And I'm like, South Africa. I was like, no. They're like, you look South African. I'm like, I'm not, but you never know.
Yeah.
But there were people from all over Africa, and just the beauty of seeing the different dances to Afro house music, it blew my mind. It was a dream. So yeah.
Thank you for coming and flying in and doing the Afro house party, which happened, and that
I have to put Haiti on the mat.
Yeah, it was. I remember there was another Haitian lady in the building as well.
Yes, we're friends now. We always chat on IG. That's my girl.
which is crazy because you wouldn't expect that. In London, we're not that many. There's not that many Haitians, so it was kind of
She's
like,
from
wow.
Amsterdam.
Yeah, she was from Amsterdam, correct, but she is originally Haitian, which is like,
Yes.
wow. But yeah, that's the kind of vibe. But that's what Afrohouse to me has enabled. It's enabled people to meet on different sort of circuits around the world and
That's right.
different places and actually combine and stuff. You played at a number of times at Miami Music Conference, right?
Yes.
With Zephyr Saint, I believe, and a
Yeah.
number of others. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Wow. I've been going to the Miami Winter Music Conference for years. At first, as a dancer, I was part of a crew.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes. And we were like, we're going. So it was just like a community of dancers and friends of mine. There was actually two crews, Afro Mosaic Soul, and my crew was Dance Warrior Project. But I was already doing the party in New York called Brooklyn Mecca. And that's where a lot of us convened, dance. You know, they supported me as a DJ and the guest DJs and all of that. So we were like the dancers of that scene, or the next generation coming up. And we often went to Winter Music Conference because one of the other DJs that we follow is Ian Friday. So and he's been one of my one of my many. Yeah, exactly. So first started off going on as a dancer just to explore the scene. And then as I got deeper into DJing, I wanted to bring that Brooklyn Mecca flavor to WMC because, you know, there's variety of parties, some that are like very, very expensive, some that, you know, have panels attached to them. And, you know, we're like underground club kids. We're not... Yeah, and now that as a businesswoman and a label owner and all that, I see the significance of it. But back then we were just party hopping, right? So, and then we go to these parties and they're like in this little hallway of like a bar lounge. And, you know, it didn't really have that vibe of what we think house is, right? And then there was bigger parties, of course, like Club Shelter and all that. So those were great. But we wanted to bring that underground, you know, Afro, soulful house vibe. So I found a space off the beaten path of South Beach, but it wasn't too far on Lincoln Road, and was a spot called Buck 15. And that became a legendary spot over the years when we did WMC. And it was a collaboration between the Libation Party with Ian Friday and myself, Brooklyn Mecca. So it was a joint party. And we did a one-off and we filled up the space. One of the things is that you had to go up a stair and it was just an open like loft space. But they had, you know, pipe bars, you know, it was very cute. It had graffiti and, you know, they had different DJ parties there, hip hop, things like that. But it was big enough, but small enough. And we always kept it either free or low cost. And one of the memorable things is that the dancers used to like to hang off of the pipes. So if you see any of like the old footage of these parties is like that real like underground feel with the powder on the floor and loft dancers and people, you know, doing not acrobatics, but
yeah, feeling
know,
the vibe. Yeah,
definitely brought that energy and vibe. And of course, Ian takes us there. You know, I did my thing, so it turned into like, oh, are we going to do that party again during WMC? So. Yeah, I think we did that for at least 5 to 6 years.
How was WMC because the Afrohouse sound was like the SA sound was there that when it was called South African House just after it became Kwaito and stuff. How was the WMC response or feeling towards that Afrohouse SA house sound at that time?
Yo, shout outs to my South Africans, because when they said it was a South African takeover, it was no joke. So for somebody that's been to WMC, I'm doing my thing here and there, then all of a sudden there was this huge wave and everything was on point, right? The marketing, you know, gathering of their own people coming to the parties, the artists, the DJs. I've never seen the mastery of DJing so beautifully executed from South African DJs. And that's from, you know, of course, Black Coffee to all the upcoming DJs at the time. And they took over a lot of these spaces, whether it's the hotels, you know, beach parties. So in addition to the ones that were standard, I was definitely hitting up those parties because it was just the vibe was so grand. And I feel like just the organization behind it and like the South Africans killed it. I don't know if they've gotten recognition in the larger like organization of WMC because I wasn't privy to that, but just in terms of what they delivered and the parties that they've done during that time, they definitely put their own stamp to WMC and created their own lane, almost to the point where we really don't need the approval or the acknowledgement from, you know, the larger conference. They came and conquered.
Which is what was.
And it was so exciting and exhilarating to see. And it definitely influenced me from male to female DJs, to the dancers, to the community that came out and flew. I met a lot of DJs and got to know them through WMC because we wouldn't normally meet anywhere else, you know. So that was a great space to like build as well.
Yeah, cool. I mean, when you were like when you were meeting DJs and like at that time of stage, it was for me, it was I was a bit younger, but what it was like, what was it like to have or find the music that you wanted to play? Where were you finding your music?
During WMC or just during that time?
During that time, during that era, before we moved on to like Spotify and people's email.
Oh yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, a lot of music, as I built relationships with DJs / producers, they would send it to me, which I was very grateful to be on that promo list. But, you know, a lot of the music I've gotten was from like Track Source. And or from the producers themselves.
Okay, cool. Did you ever have a chance to use Aphrodisia by any chance? Did you find that website?
But not, I feel like it came and went by the time I got deep into DJing and producing. But yeah, I was familiar with it, but not as much.
Okay, well, I know for myself, I was one of the people that was always trawling through, listening to everything on Aphrodisia just to get a vibe around it. Stuff. It was really great.
I think a lot of tracks I was like, "Ooh, what's that track?" Like people will recommend it, and then that's how I searched, you know, on that platform.
So generally a kind of a community kind of like, this is a great track. Like, you know, like a pool nearly as a DJ pool kind of thing. Something which has
significant, like I made a choice to follow particular producers and again, built relationships with them. So I got a lot of tracks from them. And then a lot of people are like, oh, where did you get that track? Or, you know. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. So then let's move on a bit now. So the sound's now blossoming and it's turned itself from the edge of SA House to Afrohouse. It's evolved. It's become more of a butterfly, let's say. And now it's more encompassing as we're all involved in it in different ways or different concepts and different sounds and stuff like that. How is that where you're based? When you're putting that forward to people or letting people first embrace the sound, how are you finding the Americans with the sound?
I think Afrohouse, even though it wasn't coined, was there within the New York City scene. Because that's what influenced me to DJ. But we're talking about the era of like, I don't know, early 2000s, like 2003, 2004. I officially came out like around 2006. But the type of house that moved me had those African sounds within it, but it wasn't coined as a genre per se. But it wasn't just from South Africa either, but it could be under the umbrella of Afrohouse, right? Because it's African influenced rhythms. So if I'm listening to production from Ocean Lade, from Joy Clausel, or even Jeff de Gqom, which had that Haitian influence, you know, they were very intentional in terms of their sound. So, you know, it's a mixture. There's deep, soulful within all of that. But that was my connection or my understanding or my introduction to what is deemed Afro house.
Yeah.
I would say, you know, as I started listening more to other DJs and producers specifically from South Africa, there's definitely more of a unique, you know, interpretation of that sound. So yeah, I hope that answered your
No,
question.
no, you did. That, I mean, it is the unique
Yeah.
interpretation is definitely where it is. I mean, something which is unique for Americans, I feel, is the outdoor park party or the gathering, as I might say, of people on a Saturday or a Sunday, depending on what day or where you go. I mean, tell us a little bit about that scene. Explain for those who actually haven't experienced that, because how is that?
Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, I'm sure it's throughout the United States, but just from my experience in New York, we love partying outdoors, especially in the park. It's that freedom, you know, and in celebration of ourselves, being in good weather, having that sound amplified. And also, you know, a lot of people have started families. We're not all young bucks. So, you know, there's children can enjoy it, elders can enjoy it. It also exposes different neighbors and you know, folks to the sound. Unfortunately, gentrification has been a huge issue that shut down a lot of these parties, but we've provided the culture to Brooklyn, to other boroughs, to other places, peacefully. You know, you never hear like, oh, at a house music outdoor festival, like X amount of people got shot or whatever. You know, things happen in large gatherings, but it's always a peaceful environment because we come there in peace, especially if you look at the essence of house. So those outdoor parties are very, very important for us to just expand ourselves outside of four walls in a club. And then for it to be more inclusive of all elements of, you know, society or community or family. And also you could grill, you could have some food, you know, and I just love it, especially, you know, the parties they used to have Soul Summit at Fort Greene Park.
Are they not doing Soul Summit anymore?
It's different iterations, but they shut it down. They shut it down.
Fort Greene. Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
Wow.
they shut it down. They've done collaborations with clubs like House of Yes to do like block parties. So, you know, but it's not historically like how it was before. That vibe, but you know, nothing really stops us. Even during the pandemic, St. James or Street Joy is not far from my house in downtown Brooklyn. They shut off the block.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mask, and it's a release. It's healing. We need it. So there's something about that outdoor element. I mean, you know, a lot of these underground cultures started from the streets, you know, started in factories, started in underground basements. To be fully free and be outdoors in the elements, there's something really powerful about that. So
yeah, you've traveled. Thank you for that. You've traveled. I didn't know about Soul Summit. I'm gonna have to. I had the pleasure of actually going along to some of them, so I'm actually really happy I did. Now I heard Jihad had me play at one. It was an awesome set from Jihad.
Oh, let's talk about Jersey and their outdoor events. That has turned into like a massive, almost festival size.
Really.
And again, you know, it's the power of the music.
Yeah. I didn't know the vibe had moved to Jersey, but now I'm gonna look into that.
Shout out to Jersey.
So, right, you've traveled internationally as well. Tell us about some of your journeys. You went over to, is it Spain? You went to Spain, did you?
Not yet, but put that in the universe.
We'll put that in the universe. Where did you go? Where there was a? I'm trying to think now. Maybe I've got it mistaken. It was a
Mexico.
Not Mexico. It was in Europe. I think it was Europe.
Oh, France.
France. Sorry, my apologies. How was that?
Well, Amsterdam and London, of course.
Yeah. And London, of course. Yeah. You went to Amsterdam because I saw you in Amsterdam at ADE.
Yes.
Okay, let me talk about this ADE because. So, like, I heard that Sabine was playing at the Mo Black party. and
Yeah.
I was like, and I played another. I think the night before I played, so I was like, yo. All the DJs that would hang around with me and all that stuff, I'm like, yo, we've got to go and get back to listen to Sabine Blaizin play. And they're like, who's Sabine? I said, yo, you need to see this girl. She's crazy. Come on, man. And I'm dragging people like, come on, I think we were at another event and I'm like dragging everyone. We've got to go now. Let's go. So there's like 12 of us walking down. Got to the Mo Black party, man, and she's just about to go and I was like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Mr. Silk. Nice to meet you. I really enjoy it.
Oh my.
And I've gone, yeah, nice. I've come here to listen to you.
I think that's where it all started. Our whole
yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's true.
So I've come in there because I've heard you play. So I listened to your sets and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, she's crazy. So I'm like, yo, you need to come down and speak. So you start to play, and everyone's gone, oh my god, she's crazy. Silk, you're so right. And I'm like, I told you.
I'm glad I met their expectations.
So,
that's amazing. I love the fact that you rolled deep. You came with your crew.
Oh yeah, no, at ADE.
That's how we have to support each other and all of these festivals all over the world.
No, at ADE especially. I mean, there's so many DJs and individuals, but it's mainly the DJs. We're all producers and DJs all there at the same time. You know, it's like you turn left and it's a producer that you know or you've seen or you're playing.
That was my first time.
That was your first time. Oh wow! Okay, now I understand.
Last time actually, I was, when things open up.
Yes, of course. Yeah, when open come, you need to come back to. You need to be at the next one.
Yeah,
something's happening. Need to be at the next one.
Okay. Let's make it happen.
You need to be at the next one. Okay, but it's yo, that there is like the space where most I think I've met. I talk to a lot of people, but you're meeting them face to face and actually physically speaking with them is that point there, and it's great. You know, energy wise, you're meeting people with great same energy and stuff, and it's really nice. It's a really great vibe for DJs. If you're a DJ up and coming, producer up and coming, and want to connect with your peers, get to ADE.
Yes.
Yeah, come along, meet people. You'll meet me. You know, it'll be like, yeah, hey, nice to meet you. I'll be like, hey, nice to meet you. Oh yeah, you're.
That's it. Then we roll together every party.
There we go. I think we did that after, didn't we?
Yes.
We rolled to someone.
And like, what's next?
Yeah, what you did? Come again here, and it's just like it's crazy because you can't really explain it. It's just like loads of DJs turning up.
Right.
So if you're throwing a party as well, you've got like everyone's somebody. So it's like, oh, that's that, and that's that. But yeah, they're all in the guest list. They're all in the guest list.
And you know what's crazy is because you either DJ with folks or you admire folks from afar. And when you're at these festivals, whether it's the Winter Music Conference or ADE, sometimes we break bread together or we're going to roll deep together. And I've had the most incredible, funny stories. I get to know people, and then we're human. We're real people. So that's the beautiful thing about our community, right? We look out for each other, and we get to build with one another. So I'm very grateful for a lot of these trips, especially overseas, and get to connect with different cultures and different folks.
Yeah, definitely. I think we rode to the Paradiso for Body's party, I think, or Body was played. I think we all went down to that.
Off the hook. And Manu?
Yeah, Manu, that's it.
Peoples.
Yeah. That's nothing. ADE, you get some lineups which you'll never get anywhere else. You get people playing and people
That was a pleasant surprise. And then Rich did his thing for my joint. It was dope.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely something that if you're a DJ, or you're in the scene, you want to experience different things. If you're just out there, just come along and experience, man. You just never know. You're walking to a little space and there'll be like 10 big DJs all playing on the same set, and it'll be like, why, how, where? And it's all because it's quiet. Don't tell everybody. We're just going to be here.
I love that intimate, no frills, just we're playing and we're vibing off good music.
Yeah. So yeah, it's definitely something. But I digress. Tell us about Mexico and Spain.
Mexico? Yeah. So I have there's a special place in my heart for Mexico because I've traveled there quite often, and it's been through different connections and different promoters, which has been interesting. I've done more of art installations. First of all, Mexico City has such a strong arts urban feel. It gives me a sense of New York and Europe, but still with authentic Mexican culture. And I had the pleasure of joining a collective at a certain time called Onda Mundial. And we've done a couple of gigs with them. I've been to Mexico again for like art installations, like really like non-traditional to like big room clubs as well. So that's Mexico City. I've been to Playa del Carmen for many years through the Su Casa Festival. So that was actually my first exposure to Mexico. And of course, on that side of Mexico is near the Caribbean Sea. So it gives me that like Caribbean flavor. Um, and again, another great space where I met amazing DJs that I wouldn't have met any other place who've come together, you know, to DJ for the festival. And what I love in terms of Mexico is the appreciation, the openness of hearing my sound or our sound. But I also make sure that I merge and fuse and find tracks that have both that Afro Latin and Afro house sound to it. And I think that is what sort of helped me create a niche within Mexico or within the Latin scene as well, not only like Afro house. Because I also was part of Fania Collective. And we did this amazing festival called Bajidora in the middle of a magical rainforest. I mean, it was crazy. And it was just I just saw the beauty and the power of this music. And, you know, I'm from the Caribbean. So
it makes,
you know, like where it's all
connected.
Yes. So, but when I play the music, it's almost for me as well, it's almost like a history lesson, right? That you could call yourself, you know, Latino, Hispanic, whatever, but at the end of the day, you have African and Indigenous and European roots, right? But don't deny who you are. And then those remixes of those traditional Latin songs, right? And putting that Afro house beat to it, that's it. People are going
crazy.
Like, this is me, but this is African. But so it's like we're reigniting like their indigenous and African roots through the music, which is a beautiful thing. And then I see the overwhelming response, and it's healing for them, you know, and it's also acknowledging that, you know, as a Black African Afro-Haitian woman, like this is my culture too, right? We're Caribbean, you know, the only difference between Dominican Republic and Haiti is that one side was colonized by the French and the other was colonized by the Spaniards. And there's a river between us. We're all displaced Africans at the end of the day. So anyway, that's my little history lesson. But but through the music, I also am very conscious. Like if I go someplace, this is how I try to push myself. I try to find the indigenous artists of that community or country and try to find like original tracks or acapellas, and I'll fuse it with our Afro house sound to just show that camaraderie, right? That we're all the same. And we've been doing this for years. This is our generation now. But if you look at influences of even African music, right, in West Africa, when you look at the Congolese music, there's rumba, there's Cuban music, they're influenced by salsa. There's a whole history that even in the sound, it actually does come from some of these Afro-Latin countries, or Latinx rather. So it's all connected, and that's the beauty of music, to like bring out and these things and let it shine, and then someone else could pick it up, right, and do their own interpretation and innovation to the music. But for me, it's about preserving a lot of these traditional sounds, you know, because we could get into like what it means to appropriate these sounds if they're not coming from the people or of the people, right?
Yeah.
How did you come to the music? What's your inspiration behind it? Is it because South Africa was a trend at that time and all of a sudden you're an Afrohouse DJ? Like, I'm not about that.
Yeah.
So, you know,
No,
my approach to the music is very deep. It's very spiritual to me, is reclaiming my culture. And it's also a moment for education, right? I'm still
yeah.
learning, still building, but I choose to, push the sound, right? And then add my own element to it and put Haiti on the map, of course. So yeah, it's been a beautiful experience.
No, totally. Everything you just said, and you touching on the people, people turning up into the sound who aren't engaging or engaging with the spiritual history of the music and stuff, and they just creating sounds to just become, because it's a fad as far as they're concerned. Yeah, I'm like you. I'm not with that either. I'm like, I'm going to ignore you because I know what you're up to. So, so yeah, it is. But okay, so Mexico has been nice. What is because you mentioned Mecca Sucas, which is a phenomenal festival. I haven't been myself. I need to come and experience it. What other festivals are there in the States that people can sort of like put their eyes towards or visiting if they're watching this and get out there to listen to more Afrohouse?
Oh my goodness. I feel like I've been in such a bubble for the past year due to the pandemic. I'm like, what were those festivals again? which I'm excited that things are opening up, right? Well, now it's Miami Music Week, or I know it's not Ultra because that's a different.
That's a whole.
And then, of course, Mikasa, I think they're still doing their thing. A lot of folks have done stuff virtually. I've been part of Tribe Tambor, which has been phenomenal.
Yes.
Right?
Shout out Stan and shout out
Zephyrine
Saint and Stan. Awesome, been doing that. I'm hearing great things about that.
Yes, definitely.
Two British lads, love. Two British lads.
Shout outs.
Shout out the British lads.
There's something about that voice. Oh my God, it's incredible. So I've been part of their work and it's been incredible. Again, Jersey, if you follow any of these Jersey DJs, they're part of multiple festivals, like specific to each town, whether it's Trenton, Newark. Jersey definitely held it down in terms of like outdoor festivals. I feel like, a lot of things due to gentrification, New York shut down a little bit, but I feel like this has forced us to go back underground. And that's how the music and these parties have started and the beauty of the styles that came from it. And, I feel like people have been cooking in the lab, in terms of beats and, just reinventing themselves. So I don't know what festivals will look like in the future. I feel like it's a little oversaturated, these live streaming, and maybe because I'm more like organic and traditional and want to like feel the vibe
of the people. Yeah.
I haven't sort of jumped on the bandwagon as of yet, but I also see it as a need because we are resilient. We have adapted. We are the purveyors of the sound and music. And, it was once underground before and we created the technology and the technology actually comes from us too. So I just have to, rethink and shift my way of thinking and not necessarily adapting to this new normal, but just like how could we still be Pan-African and look at it as, as like Afrofuturism or, still having Africa in the center, but, having control over the technology and not being afraid to experiment with tools, with streaming, with, our sound and all of those things. So from December up until now, I consciously decided to do a brand refresh for Oyasound. So a new logo, doing more photos of myself because I've been submitting the same photos for the past 10 years. Like getting
You've been seeing them. We've been seeing the pictures.
Oh, you see the pictures?
Yeah, we've seen the pictures.
Yeah. Good. I'm trying to be a model on these streets.
Yeah, we're loving the vibe. We're loving the way you're going. It's exactly where we want you to be.
It's been fun. So it's also keeping me, inspired and creative during this time because, it's been hard. So so those are the things I'm thinking about, like how to recreate, reinvent myself and use some of these technological tools. I will be joining Twitch soon and
Great.
all those things. I'm getting there.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing more of that. You mentioned two things there. I'm gonna shout out West Coast, the West Coast Weekender with Oscar P and the guys that are doing it over there in San Diego. He'll kill me if it's yes, San Diego, not San Jose. In San Diego, shout out those guys because I know they're doing it and I know they're going to be driving. They've done
doing their thing too. I forgot. Shout outs to Salah. They have a weekender as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's great just seeing it start to explode. I mean, of course, you've got Tambor in Atlanta. You have I know that I've forgotten his name. He's gonna kill me. I would say the guys in LA and a number of other different parties just popping up, which is really great. It's been really seeing the spread happening over there because we spoke a couple of years before you came over to the party, and you were saying that America hasn't got the parties yet, and then they start to spring up and just pop up everywhere. And I've been like, yes, finally. You've got the other kind of like more European type sounding Afrohouse popping up with the likes of Ellie Fuller over there and
Eli. Yep.
Eli, anime as well as over there.
That's my brother. We just collaborated on DJs United fundraiser for the New York Presbyterian Hospital during the pandemic, and I've collaborated with Eli as well. We're working on a track.
Awesome.
And I feel like that's the beauty of Afrohouse, right? Like, actually, my original love in terms of the house genres, I guess it would be Afrotech or deep tech, but it was more leaning towards that sound. But yeah, like that crew of DJs or folks that are coming up and coming, bring that new needed flavor to the scene of Afrohouse. And I'm glad that it's becoming an umbrella of different folks coming in and doing their thing.
Definitely looking forward to that flourishing and you flourishing alongside it and with it as well, and engaging and collaborating, as you said as well. We're looking forward to the collaboration already. But now you said about the Ellie one and the MMA stuff. We need to see more of this happening. It's something that
DJ at House of Yes, and he was one of the performers, a saxophonist. And then we connected and we were like, oh, he was like, yeah, I admired you from House of Yes. And so it just, it all came together. Yeah.
Awesome. And this is what I like happening. I love to see that happening. I don't know him personally. I'm going to try to get him to do one of these interviews as well, just to say.
He's amazing. He's been rocking in Tulum. So a lot of creatives have just been out, and taken that risk. Meme, he's been touring this whole past year. So I'm so excited and inspired by seeing how they've taken this situation and made it their own.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
and still pushing the sound.
Yeah, definitely. Go for it. Keep it coming, guys. We're loving it. We are seeing it. We are globally looking and we are seeing it. Don't worry. I've got another question for you. Oh, yes. You mentioned Afrofuturism. Now, for me, I believe Afrofuturism, Afrohouse go hand in hand. I believe it's part and parcel of the journey and parcel of the belief. It may not be connected as much as many people think currently, but I believe it has a much larger part to play in our future than many realize, because it's that side of it's the beginning of something new, and Afrofuturism is about that. It's about releasing what was and what happened and thinking of a new path and creating new paths. And so how do you see that kind of journey and the relationships working together?
Yeah, in terms of so in addition to DJing and producing and curating events, I coined myself an artivist or a scholar. So that's where the nerdy side of me comes from. And, I call myself an Afrofuturist at times as well, but it's more in the literary sense in following various authors like Octavia Butler, my favorite.
Yep.
And it's pretty much, again, Africa is at the center, but reimagining our space, reimagining our future. So in terms of Afrohouse, it's like you're merging, you know, new technology, right? Or with traditional sounds. And you're creating something new by doing that merging, which will also dictate a different sound for the future of our movement. So essentially, it is part of the realm, but through a musical lens of Afrofuturism. And I love the fact that we're even talking about it or even seeing it in that way, because sometimes Afrofuturism is linked to music as well, but more so historically like Sun Ra, or, you know, but in terms of like house music and really naming like DJs and producers of African descent that's pushing the envelope and pushing the sound of, even within techno, right?
Yeah.
Whole movement from Detroit, you know.
That was Afrofuturism,
you know. So yeah, it's definitely interconnected. And then looking at the artists from South Africa alone, you know, whether they're illustrators or literary artists and musical artists, and using instruments, even in Haiti, you know, using the limited technology that we're allowed to have or have access to or have the privilege to have, and then we recreate it and create new sounds and art from it.
That's what I mean.
They're all semantics. These are all terms. But we've been doing it since day one. Whether it's through gumbo, the soup, or, you know, beats that we make, you know, we are spiritual, creative people, and we got to reimagine and fight for our future. And it's revolutionary in a sense as well. So.
No, totally. I mean, you hit the nail on the head for me, as they say. And the music is the words, the music is the pictures. But in some instances, some of the pictures, and I think that I believe it will be a gathering of more. I believe some of the pictures are actually the covers of music coming out and stuff nature are in that Afrofuturism realm. A lot of stuff from Maluku Rebels, you'll see that Afrofuturism realm and that stuff nature. And I have conversations with him regarding that as well. And I say that's the way I see Afrohouse personally. I see it in that future. As you said earlier on, you said in your point just now, you said it's about creating music and putting it together with the rhythms from the past, but then creating reimagining the future, or reimagining what the past was, so it becomes a new future. It's a new path.
That's the way we preserve the culture, but we also evolve, you know?
Yeah. And it's about that evolution.
Look at, you know, my existence is revolutionary, right? Being a person of African descent, generations post-slavery, and I'm alive and I'm free. You know, our ancestors imagined this future for us, and here we are today.
Exactly.
And we got to keep fighting and keep doing this craft, whether it's through music, whether it's through community organizing, whether it's through, you know, whatever you do, whatever you do. But in terms of Afrohouse, I like the fact that we're naming it and claiming it, and I just want us to keep it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something we need to do. We do need to try to make sure that we keep it, because it is nowadays. And let me speak on this, but I might as well say that there is a larger amount of people coming in of different cultures and stuff, actually attributing and putting themselves towards the Afrohouse sound, and it's a wonderful thing that we're being what's the word I'm looking for? Embraced by different cultures, but we also want to remain, the essence of the sound has to remain, and where it's coming from and stuff of nature.
And it's not just in the production, right? It's the production houses, it's the labels, it's the distribution, it's all of those things. Just as we have a seat at the table, and or we are the table because it comes from our culture and our roots, then it's okay, but just as long as it's not co-opted and turned into, you know, I am all for the growth of our industry, of our music, but just give homage where homage is due, and then give opportunities, right, to the forefathers and mothers of the genre, and that's it.
Yeah, definitely. That's the way forward and the only way to go, and let's all work together to make sure that's the case as well. So Okay. All right. So got a bit, I didn't even know you were an Afrotech, so we're gonna have more conversations about that.
Oh,
Um,
we're geeking out over here. We're geeking out. We're about to share books, links, you know.
we're gonna talk. Tell us a little about, because you actually have a party at one of the spots in Manhattan, which is a really really nice spot, above an amazing hotel. Um, Tell us about your spot, Lebain.
Yes, yes. So Lebain is a bar lounge space at the Standard Hotel. They also have one in London. And it was great. They actually reached out to me and they wanted a different sound in their space. They have a variety of DJs and parties, mainly like deep tech, techno. A lot of the patrons of the party are from the guests who are in the hotel or people who are coming through the city. It's very high end in that way. But during the weekday, they wanted just more of a global sound. But they also gave me the creative freedom to market it, to come up with the concept. So we did like one-offs here and there, and they really liked it. So it became essentially almost a monthly party. And I named it Recolte, which means harvest in Haitian Creole. And at the time, I was working with a house dancer, Nubian Nene, who's also Haitian. She became a fellow through Haiti Cultural Exchange, as nonprofit. That I was a former fellow, so I became her mentor during the fellowship. And she wanted to pay homage to her. You have to pick a social justice issue, and do a creative interpretation or piece around that within a Brooklyn neighborhood of your choice. So she did gentrification. She was looking at environmentalism and climate change and all of those things. And there was a traditional Haitian song that she wanted me to remix for her project. And that became my first official track. I have snippets here and there, but that became my official first like Oyasound track that I produced and I put out, and that has that traditional Haitian rhythm to it. It was a remix of a traditional Haitian song. So long story short, in homage of that and just where I want to go with this party. So it was a night of Haitian roots music and house. So I called it Recolte. And it was myself as a resident DJ, Okai Musique, who is my partner at Oyasound. He's a producer, percussionist, vocalist. He was the resident percussionist for the party. Then we'll have different guest DJs. And the DJs specifically, they know the theme of the party, but they will also do them because I chose them because I felt like it was a good fit. But of course, it was house and Haitian roots. So the Haitian roots part was definitely like the drumming, the different singing artists. I also had different dancers and groups come through. And it gave me the vibe of the party that I used to do, Brooklyn Mecca, where I used to have guest performances, mainly dance groups, whether it was samba, capoeira, West African, Haitian, house dancers. So I just want to show folks the connection through the performances. So when things open back up, hopefully I could recreate Recolte there and or other places. So I was a resident DJ at Lebain. I was also a resident DJ at House of Yes, and then a resident DJ through Onda Mundial in Mexico.
Wow. And that's what I mean. It's just the vibe and how it kicks out and stuff on nature. I mean, what you're speaking, I haven't been to your party, but it reminds me of my mind throws me back to a party I ventured into in Brooklyn years ago, not in Brooklyn, in Manhattan years ago, called Are You Afro? I'm not sure if you're aware.
Yeah. I DJ for it as well. Yeah.
Okay, look, so you're thinking, how do you know about that, Silk? So yeah, that party was great, and I know that was always done up in Manhattan, and I love the t-shirts they did and all that stuff on nature, and so it's great seeing that whole thing and seeing it still out there being pushed, and I guess the reticle, it just makes me think, wow, I need to be out there, and I'm going to come along when we are open and when we're allowed to fly and stuff.
Well, we did do a joint in the outdoor park in Navy Yard
with Are You Afro?
No, Sankofa Soul.
Oh,
you were
right.
there.
Oh yeah, I went to that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
came to that. Yeah, yeah. The park party. That was a great party. That was a great party. I like that. The vibe was really like as we said earlier on in the conversation. You said it's a family oriented. You kind of felt that, even though I was on my own and a stranger, and I kind of looked really strange because I'm European looking like guy came walking in. But it was like really people just
You're
like,
a brother. The only time they would know you're European is if you start talking. You fit right in.
So you mean? So I was like there dancing, shuffling, and all that stuff. And it was great, man. It was a great vibe. I really enjoyed that, man. Shouts out to the ladies who put that on as well, right? It's a female group that puts it on.
Charmaine Bourne for Sankofa Soul, and then we had Spirits in Motion,
Yeah,
DJ and DJ Zion. Yeah, it was amazing.
yeah, definitely. Shouts out to people that I can't wait to be back to embrace and experience some more of that culture and that stuff.
We're fiending. I feel like, yeah, we're doing it already. There's outdoor parties here and there on the ground. I find out about it later, but we're all just trying to maintain ourselves and stay safe.
Yeah. Well, that's the main thing is stay safe. Let's be quite frank. Let's stay safe. Let's be sensible. Stay safe. Let's get back up to normal and let's get out there. And there's a future waiting for us to be claimed. And you're part of that future picture. So please make sure that you're healthy and ready to do.
Yes, I want to hug people again. I'm a hugger.
That's what you mean. So yeah. So right. What other questions have to go to? I think we've got about 4 minutes. I wanted to ask you a couple more questions, but what I will do is I'm going to ask you how do people get hold of you? Where and how do they get hold of you if they want to get hold of the Sabine Blaizin?
Yeah, well, through my website, www.oyasound.com, OYASOUND. Also on Instagram at Oyasound. Also Facebook, but I'm mainly on IG. I do have a personal account, but I'm trying to push folks to Oyasound. Those are some of the branding, refresh that I'm doing. So there's a lot of cool things there. And then on my website, it has my SoundCloud, all my social media links, merch where you could buy T-shirts, music. There's also videos, articles, my bio, of course, and description of different artists that we've worked with. Mm-hmm. So everything is housed on that website. So www.oyasound.com.
Awesome. That's where you're going to find her. She has been Sabine Blaizin. Oh, before we go, the question popped in my head that I wanted to ask you, and it went straight back out. It came in and went, come on, Silk, pull it together. This is not
sound effects, Silk. I feel like this is like your thing.
Oh no, thank you. I appreciate that, man. I like to ask questions. I like to find out stuff, and I remember things and what people have said and how things have happened. So I really like to find out, and the whole reason for doing this is to make sure the information is documented and people realize, because sometimes when I'm telling people just don't know. They didn't know about that. They didn't know about that. And I'm like, well, how didn't you? And then I realized it's not being documented. It's not being said on a video or something so people can relate to it. And I said, okay, let's get them out there. Let's get these stories out there, like yourself today, telling us about the Haitian stuff. It's perfect. And thank you for that. Yes. Shouts out to Drums Radio as well. Shouts out to Dams in the background there, managing away and making sure I'm still get on with it. So, and that stuff as well. Okay, there is more questions in my head. Oh, so you played at one of the major lineups because it's Women's Month. It's women. We're celebrating women, and it's been a major experience for the last 4 weeks or 3 weeks. You played at one of the lineups with, I would say, for myself, my top 3 ladies played on the same bill at the same time. Okay, so there was Minko from the Rice Crew in Berlin. Yes. There was Sin City from my sister from Rotterdam, Amsterdam, and then yourself. So for me, those are the 3 top ladies in the game right now. For me,
so much fun! Oh my gosh,
how was that?
Right there.
Tell me about that experience, because that's like one of the there's shouts out to June for putting that on.
Yes.
Well, it's very important that we have that kind of event. It was an all-female lineup. It was amazing, and we want to do one. I'm going to do something from one all-female lineup and have you guys do something with us as well. But tell us about that experience, please.
It was incredible. I mean, Dejun is such a legendary bass, and I've always wanted to play at Gqom, so this was a dream come true. You know, I played once and I did a live stream, but to actually play alongside my sisters. And then also it was a full weekend of celebrating women DJs.
Yes.
Natasha Diggs was there and some other folks. And that night, I mean, we went deep and we went hard. You know,
You did, yeah.
we played all the joints, but we were all like, "Ooh, you're gonna play that? Oh, I'm gonna play this." Well, it was just our connection, the three of us when we played, was amazing. And of course, I've known Sin, but you know, I never DJ with Mink. Like everybody was on their A game. The crowd was amazing. The reception was great. Of course, the space. And in terms of like sisters really pushing that Afrohouse sound, we went there and we did it, you know, and it was really good. It was really good.
Oh, it's awesome. I didn't want to miss that point out. I'm sorry, I had to bring that in because.
But you're reminding me of all the parties, all the jams, so it's good.
Thank you. I did my job. I did my job today. Right. So yeah, so that's perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to say thank you very much. I'm sure we're going to have you back on a conference or something else in the very future on Drums Radio. Of course, maybe we're going to have you back in London soon.
Yes.
When you get a chance to be open. I know you can't wait to come back because of the vibe and stuff you enjoyed. So, and we loved what you did and how you were as well. So we're going to get that all back together. And you know what? I even forgot about the little things that happen in the background, like the airplane and all that stuff. But don't worry about it. Let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. She has been Sabine Blaizin. I've been Mr. Silk. Please subscribe, like, and share the video. We're trying to build a scene. We're trying to build these. So please, please, please do that. It's the only way that we keep doing more of them. And it's up to you guys. So, you know, thanks for watching. And please spread the word. Thank you so much. Sabine Blaizin.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Peace, everybody.
Peace, everybody. Thank you so much, guys. Take care now.